Welcome to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Y'all asked, I answered. We were able to make this work. We got Presley Tennant here. How's it going today?
It's going wonderful. How are you doing?
Doing really well. I'm in Texas where it's finally starting to cool down. I don't have to worry about that crazy oppressive heat that we've had all summer. And, things are starting to cool down a little bit here. So
that's how it is over here too, which is really nice because I love the cold weather.
Yeah.
But also it's like they wanted a little bit sunny half the time, and we've been getting a lot of rain too. We don't ever get that up until maybe December.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. But I'm like, it's kind of nice to get a little preview into what it's supposed to be.
Right. And so you're based out of California, correct?
Yes, I'm in Southern California. It's called Norco.
Okay.
Everyone thinks everyone. They're like, oh, you're from Northern California. I'm like, no, not quite.
No.
Down south.
Because I saw that and I was like, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's Southern California because I think it was trying to throw me off. But yeah, no. So you're born and raised in Norco?
Yes, born and raised. I've been here my entire life, and I absolutely just love it over here. We're like a very small horse town.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere is like horse trails instead of sidewalks for the most part, which is really cool. But no one ever believes it until they come down here, and then they're like, "Oh my God, you're like horse capital of USA," and I'm like, "Yeah,
nice.
No one can back me up on this."
Right, 100%. Oh, so what was it like growing up in Norco for you?
I went to the elementary school here growing up, and then I was homeschooled during middle school because I was back and forth between here and LA half the time because I was in a girl group at a very young age. So I was going to rehearsals during the day, come back, would go to soccer practice at night, and then I'd do it all again. But the one thing about Norco is that everyone knows each other, which is really awesome. And it's just one big community, which is really, really cool to see. We all come together for so many different events that we have here, which is, I think, one of the biggest things. I think growing up, I didn't really appreciate that. And now that I'm older, it's like, oh my gosh, this actual sense of community is just the best thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I was in a similar situation where I grew up in a small town south of Chicago, and it was a small town community, all that stuff. And all I could think about was, oh, I got to get away. Everybody knows who I am. And now it's like, I'm looking for that feeling again because it was such a good feeling. So,
yep.
So I thought it was kind of interesting that you said that you grew up in Southern California, but you had to travel all the time into LA, and knowing the Southern California traffic, I know it's probably not that far, but still takes 2-3 hours to get into LA, depending on where you're at.
If I'm really lucky and there's no traffic, an hour, pretty much anywhere at that point. But on the way home, it could be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5, 3 hours, which is the worst feeling ever. Now that since I drive, and I'm by myself, we can't take carpooling. So I'm stuck in this traffic, and I always contemplate going. Then a cop passes me by, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. This is the sign saying don't do it. It's not worth it.
Right. It's one of those times. It's like you want to go get one of those plastic mannequin things and just sit it in your passenger seat. Be like, I got a passenger. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a fun drive though. I really enjoy driving.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to different types of music and just kind of dive in. It's like my little breather moment. So I don't mind it too bad.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want more, and then I'm like, get me out of this.
Right. 100%. Oh, so growing up in Norco, you said you were traveling back and forth to LA because you were in a girl group. How did you kind of get involved in that? That's really interesting.
So I was growing up, I did little competitions around my hometown. That was just little vocal competitions. I think it was BG Idol and then SoCal Icon or something like that. And I did one of them, and I was introduced to the mayor of that town. And she had introduced me to the girl group because they were looking for new people. And so these girls were professional dancers at 10 years old, and I could do a somersault. And I was like, yep, this is what I got. Take it or leave it. No, but I auditioned for the group, and I think I was about 10 at this time. And I never knew that even music industry existed. I thought soccer was what I was going to do the rest of my life.
Yes.
And as soon as I found out there was a music industry, I was like, okay, bye-bye. I made the decision. It was a pretty, I tried to do both of it at the same time for a while, and it just didn't quite end up working out. But I was in the girl group and I auditioned a few times and they cut me, but they kept having me come back. And so like every time that they do that, I'd be like, I started taking dance lessons. I would go to LA like 5 days a week. My mom would drive me down there and I'd go take class with all these professional dancers who were working with like Rihanna and like Justin Bieber and all these people. And then there's little old me who doesn't know a thing that she's doing, but you know what? I was giving it my all. And so from that point on, I just fell in love with the music industry and I finally got in the group and I was fully immersed and I loved every single bit of it. It was just like, I don't know, it felt like a culture shock in a way because we're a very like soccer oriented family. And so for me to do that and everyone's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know, but it's fun. It was like that kind of thing. And I don't know, it was just one of the greatest things and I would never change it in a million years.
Nice. So you said you tried to make them both work. And obviously at some point, if you're going to try and take them both seriously, one's got to give because, it is what it is. What this girl group, was it like a competition team or was it like just somebody was putting a group together to go perform and it was just kind of like an after school type thing?
So it wasn't a competition team at all. It was all coming together. It was, we all sang, we all danced, and go into like these different writing sessions and rehearsals from like 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. every day. So I could do all of it because I was going to school and then I would go up to rehearsal and then I'd go to soccer practice. And I was like, okay, then all the girls decided that we were going to be homeschooled together to make this all work. And got to work with some incredible people. I mean, like with the Jacksons and then Kelly Rowland. And so that was really cool at that time, especially I love the Jacksons growing up. I always used to sing like any Jackson 5 song. Nice. And so it was just, they were building it out to be what was today's day and age of like the Jacksons, but girl version, Christian pop girl group. We wore like pink tutus outside, knee-high Converse that were bedazzled to the max. So we were always performing at like different elementary schools. We did like elementary school tours and going to like amusement parks and doing it there, which was really fun, especially at that age. Cause I was like, this is great. Like I get to sing and I get to go on rides. I was having the best time, but no, and it really prepared me for what this music industry really is.
Nice. I was just trying to get an idea of like what it was. Cause growing up, we had like those competition teams where you'd be a part of a team and you just basically went to competitions, but then you'd also have like musicians that would do it just perform, you kind of had a few different things going on. So I was just trying to get a feel for what this was, but you brought up the Jackson 5. Funny little story. Well, not funny little story. So my dad grew up in the same area that the Jacksons did, or actually my entire family's from that same area. And so when I was younger and just starting out with Live and Amplified, he used to tell me all these stories about he would go to the Lake County Fair, which was the county that he grew up in, and he would see this group of musicians called the Jackson 5 performing. And there was always this little kid named Michael that was always so good. And it's like, I never really put it together until I really started like listening to music and stuff. And I was like, oh, he's talking about Michael Jackson. He's talking about that. Okay. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So when you brought that up, I was like, oh, okay, I got to tell a story. It was a great little story. So, this was your exposure into the music business and taught you a lot. Where'd you kind of go from there? Were you with them for a good minute or kind of walk me to that?
So when I joined the group, I was 10, and I want to say we ended when I was about 13, and we all kind of went our separate ways. And so the choreographer of that group, he saw that I wasn't doing music actively at that time as soon as I did it, but I ran into him because I fell in love with dance as well. I started doing these little like conventions in a way, and I would take class. And so I saw him at one of the things and he was like, we need to work together. Like, let's do this. And so he was like, he gave me his number and everything. And I'd call, like my mom called him and was like, hey, so like, what are you thinking? And he's like, I got plans for us.
Yes.
Like, perfect. And so it was from that point on, I was in the writing room, or I was rehearsing or
Mm,
playing as much shows as I could. At that point, I think from 13 to 15 or 16, I was performing all the time. There was
mhm,
a local cheer competition that would
mm,
play all around us. And I had like dancers in that point. And so they all kind of like knew, like we were all intertwined in a way.
mm.
And so they invited me out. And so every weekend I'd play anywhere from like 3 to 4 shows.
Okay.
And it was right before the awards, which was so cool, especially at like 13 to 15. Like you don't really get those that's like not very like that's not what is the right word for it? It's very unheard of, I think
Yeah.
is the right fit.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was performing all the time, releasing music, and just kind of creating this brand. But the more I did that, it was just like I felt like I was trying to be something that I wasn't,
Hmm.
and I was trying to be a lot cooler than I was, but also still living like my truth and my age, because I was still very young, and I was like, I'm not trying to grow up. Like I was living in the moment of it.
Oh yeah.
And so it got to that point where I was 16, and I just kind of like took a little step back. I went on The Voice, and I did a lot of soul searching during that time, as much as you could do at 16.
Hmm.
Or like, I need to figure myself out. And so after The Voice, because I ended up on there after kind of taking a little step back, I made the decision. I was like, hold on, if I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, I need to be happy with what I'm
Hmm.
doing. So I kind of, in a way, like went back to my roots because of where I grew up. Everything is like everybody around me listens to country music. And so it's
Hmm.
always surrounded by me. And I made the decision to go back into country, and it was just it was probably the best decision I think I ever made, because I feel like I can live in the moment and not try to be something that I'm not, and just live my truth. As soon as I'm on stage, it's still me. And like when I'm off stage, it's still me.
Hmm.
That was like the thing. I felt like I had to put on this persona that was like Miss Cool Girl. And I was like, I was not the cool girl. I was the first to call my mom at like a party, and I was like, they're drinking. And I was like, come pick me up.
Yeah.
Like
What do I do? Yeah.
never got invited to one after that.
Yeah.
Understandably,
Yeah.
buzzkill. But I was like, you know what? I was okay with it though. It didn't bother me.
Hmm. Gotcha. Just kind of take a step back for a bit. So when you left the girl group and you started performing by yourself, were you doing cover, or what kind of music were you playing? Was it more like pop type stuff, or what were you playing at that point?
So it was pop because
Okay.
of what the group kind of showed me. It was like that's the same path I was continuing on,
Hmm.
but just in as a solo artist at that point. And so I was writing songs. I was doing, I think, mainly originals plus a few covers.
Okay.
Like I loved Jessie J during that time, so I was singing every Jessie J song I could. But it was mainly originals with a few covers, and then like putting like a whole 15-20 minute set together with dancers, full on everything, full production. And then we just go do it every weekend almost.
Mm, nice, nice. And then, of course, after as you kind of move forward, you said when you turned 16, you went on The Voice, which was oddly, wasn't it like season 16?
It
I,
was.
I, I was sitting there because there was a time there where I stopped watching The Voice, where it was like, okay, this is getting too out of hand. They're doing 2 episodes a year. I can't keep anything straight. And I think, unfortunately, that was just like one of the years that I didn't watch because it was like, all that. But um, I went back and watched your audition. I found it on YouTube, or yeah, your live audition, I guess technically it is. And just seeing the photos, this sounds really creepy. I don't mean for it to be creepy, but seeing your photos on your social media and then watching this video, it's like, oh, she was really young doing this audition. And you mentioned being 16. It's like, yeah, makes sense.
It was. I felt like during that time, I went into that experience just with open arms and said, like, I just wanted to learn as much as I could.
Mhm.
I mean, to so many people on the show, like I still talk to this day. I mean, I got to work with my idol, Kelly Clarkson.
Mhm.
Working with even like the band was just the most incredible thing I think I ever did, because at that point, I think I'd maybe worked with a band one time, and I was like 12,
Mhm.
13, and I faced the wrong way, like as like we're rehearsing, and they're like, you could turn around and like face us. And I was like, you just got to tell me these things. I have no idea.
Right.
And so when I walked in, it was just like every single person that was in the band works for every artist that you hear on radio they're playing for. And so that was just so mind-boggling to me, because I was like, what how am I here getting to work with all these people that I, and especially Kelly, that I've looked up to for so long. And like at that, by the end of it, I felt like Kelly and I were like friends, and I was
Mm.
like, oh my god, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like my idol, like, you know how they say don't ever meet your idols?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's completely false about her. She's wonderful. And so when I did meet her, it was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I still get like goosebumps thinking about it, because I was 16 at that time. I felt like I was a baby. Like I still feel
Right.
like I'm very young. But at that time, when I thought I was like on top of the world, and I look
Mhm.
back and you were just learning, like you were doing your thing. And I think that was the biggest growing up moment for me too.
Yeah, for sure. It's always interesting because you go through these especially when you're so young, you go through these experiences, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, where it's like maybe you don't quite appreciate it, but then when you do some growing up, and obviously, what's it been, 4 years since you've been on the Voice? 4 years,
But
5 years?
yeah,
And you kind of look back, it's like, man, that was a good time. I probably should have, you know, paid attention, or not paid attention a little bit more, but like just enjoyed the moment for what it was, and then dealt with the repercussions afterwards. So,
I just like my favorite part about it. I was so sad when I left. Like it wasn't even the fact that I was off the show. It was
mhm,
just the fact that I was not going to be able to like have all these jam sessions till like hotel security knocks on the doors, like you got to go to bed. There's other people still here. Like that was probably like my favorite thing, just getting to be amongst so
mhm,
many creatives.
mhm,
Because I feel like around me there, especially at that time, I didn't know too many people. It was just like I was doing my thing, and then
mhm,
I'd leave, or everyone does their own work and whatnot. And like, so when I was having those jam sessions and hanging out with all these musicians, I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is the
right.
best thing. And so when I left, I was like so sad. And then they brought me back out for the finale. And then I was like, I get to have it one more time. And I really soaked in that moment.
Right.
That was the best feeling ever.
Yeah. And in those situations where you don't necessarily know when you're going to leave, it's like you want to like take the competition seriously and try and win and all that stuff. But you also want to enjoy the time you have there, because you don't know, like tomorrow, maybe your last day, you may be gone. You're like, that's so. Um, what was the audition process for you like for The Voice? Was it a pretty like intense, long process, or what was that process like?
I didn't feel like, I mean, I was very fortunate for the
Mhm,
fact that I did not do the cattle call, and they had reached out and asked if I wanted to audition.
mhm,
So the auditions were close to me. And so I went in and I auditioned. They said, okay, we'll let you know. And then I felt like, I think it was from May to like September.
mhm,
It felt like there was a round or like a different process each month, but
mhm,
it was just one day. And then that was it, or 15 minutes of like a Zoom type thing.
mhm,
Um, so the actual audition process of being on the show. And I want to say I was October that we started to film, and we were all like put in a hotel, and we all just got to hang out with each other and get to know each other and go through like rehearsals and wardrobe fittings and interviews and like all these different things that I didn't even realize were a part of it. Like I was going into it having a good
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So I showed up, they were like, here's your schedule. And I was like, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I will just be there whenever you need me to. And then I was there.
yeah, for sure. And I think living in Southern California just kind of offers that for you. And then obviously, unfortunately, what was it, like 6 months after your season ended, the pandemic rolled out? Or is
Yeah.
that the I'm sitting here trying to figure out the timeline of everything, because I was like, at the end of 2019, oh, then that means that pandemic was right around the corner. So,
It was, I remember, I want to say it was the season after me. It was either one season after me or two seasons after me. That's when
mm,
they went fully virtual and everyone was
yeah,
to their hotel or to their houses.
yeah,
And they did everything that way. Like they sent cameras and videos and mics and whatnot. And I was like, that's really cool. But also it's not the same as like being in front of that audience.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a different feel, and I luckily you got in when you did, and you had your moment. Maybe you weren't able to quite capitalize on it as much as you would have liked to, because like shows and stuff cut down or got shut down. But after that, you start releasing your own music, correct? You start reading and or not reading, but recording and releasing your own music, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was a what was that, or what was that? Not, geez, wow. Sorry. Um,
Like four
so
times.
right. It's like, oh God, not times perfect time for the cat to get your tongue, right? So how long did you wait after The Voice to start putting out your own music?
I want to say I waited a bit because at that point I was still trying to figure out where I wanted to go with music and like
Mm-hmm.
how I wanted to kind of like go forward and just kind of put my best foot forward instead of just, I think over the years I've learned that it's better to put out quality over just putting out songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I mean that is like the representation of like who you are to that moment. Um, and I feel like I'm still learning that. And like this year has really been the process of getting like down to the nit and gritty, but I was still learning at that time. Um, and I think I put out music pretty soon after. I want to say was end of 2019, because that's when I started going to Nashville and started working with different writers and different artists out there.
Mm-hmm.
I got into the studio, recorded, released, and then I would do the same thing for a couple of years up until last year. That's when I put out my EP.
Mm-hmm.
And now the process is just kind of, I think I've been going out to Nashville about once a month now, and I have about 65 songs since I would say like March
Oh wow.
is when I really started like once a month. Otherwise, it was just like I'd go in for a couple days and I'd do like an event or something like that there,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wasn't really writing too much. But now it's like I have this pool of songs that I cannot wait for people to hear, which I'm so excited for.
Nice.
And it's gonna be like the big aim by the end of this year, the beginning of next.
Awesome. Is the thought to just like continually release singles, or since there's so much, are you thinking like releasing like continually releasing bigger projects, or is that like too much flooding of the market?
I think right now, especially with how the music industry nowadays is, because of streaming, it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to put out singles one after another. But I think there's still something really special about putting out an entire record or an
Mm-hmm.
entire album. So I know I'll put out a few singles and then kind of decide if I want to put out an EP, re-releasing like those singles with like a couple new songs on there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still kind of all up in the air, just
Yeah.
seeing which I have a couple more trips, so seeing which ones we want to push out first and then going from there.
Yeah, for sure. When you have such a catalog that's like just ready to go, like it's just it puts you in a good but also kind of a bad position, because it's like, okay, we've got a lot to cover, like we've got a lot to release, and we just need to figure out how to do it and figure out the pattern. But then you get super excited about releasing the music, and it's like, oh, I just want to drop this song now. I want to do it now, but you can't. So you got to kind of like control yourself, because you put a lot of time, effort, and money into this process, that you can't just like, oh, it's Tuesday, I'm dropping this song because it's Tuesday. So
Yeah. But I mean, you can nowadays. That's the luxury of like everything being so digital, and you could just put it out if you want to. But I think also just keeping like the plan and wanting to get things out very consistently every
Mhm.
like 8 weeks or so, just so we can start building up. Like, okay, here's one song. Now here's another song.
Mhm.
I think just keeping like the attention of people that listen to my music, I think is the biggest thing, and I'm eternally grateful for that, even to be like an option to do.
For sure, for sure. Now, with that, are you like always continually writing, or are you kind of like, okay, let's figure out what to do with this, and then we'll kind of pick it back up at the beginning of the year?
So I am going to be writing consistent. Like I still write like on my own and while I'm out in California, but I do majority of my writing out in Tennessee now. Um, but during the process of like releasing stuff, I will definitely be writing just so I can get like the even more I don't know what the right word is, but like the right flow and like
Hmm.
making all cohesively goes the same way. Because I mean, there was a point in time where I was writing by myself all last year. But the difference of writing with somebody else versus like, and then taking a year off in a way,
Hmm.
um, from releasing music, there's going to be a little shift in my music sound,
Hmm.
but it's still nothing too crazy. But I just want to make sure like that flows very smoothly, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. You kind of want to stay authentic to who you are as a musician, but as your kind of especially when you want to try and release music consistently, whether it's every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like whatever it is, you want to make sure that, okay, if there is a slight change in the sound, because at that point you were feeling a little bit more rock than country, so it was like took a southern rock route, it just kind of, it's not quite as noticeable of like, oh, hey, she's releasing rock music right now, what is this? And then, so.
You're like, this is not the person I remember.
Right, right, right. Um, so let's talk about the debut EP just a little bit, since it's out right now, 600 miles. People can listen to it. I have to say, because I've played it on our radio show, I think last I counted was 3 or 4 times. The title track, 600 miles, is probably my favorite. So I just want to put that out there. What was kind of the thought process going into 600 miles? Were you just like specifically writing for this EP, or what was kind of the thought process there?
So I was writing at that point just for singles.
Mhm.
And it got to, I want to say, ending of last year, and I was like, you know what, this could be kind of like a cool way to put this all out there, because a lot of the music I had recorded when I was 18,
Mhm.
17, 18, and I had written it then. So it kind of felt like it was a little journal of what's been going on. Like, um, and so I was like, I felt it would be really cool to put that out there as just like, this is a diary of what's been going on the past couple of years. And I kind of just wanted to put that out there because I felt like I've been maturing in so many different ways. And I feel like that's a given. Like as I get older, it's just like figuring out like different life experiences and writing about them. And so at that moment of time, I was like, okay, like I want to put these out there before I feel like I can't really resonate and can't sing with them too completely like in that moment.
Mhm.
And so I put it there, and I had loved the songs, every single one of them, for so many different reasons. I mean, 600 miles, that one I remember writing, that was one of my first trips I wrote in Nashville, that and How Many Kisses. And then there was songs like Pray for Peace. That was that one I didn't write, actually. It was sent by Harrison Sheckler, and it was
Mhm.
right after the shooting and everything going on in the world. And I was like, this is really beautiful, and I really want to spread this message out. And so he asked if I could sing it and like if I wanted to release it, and I was hooked instantly. Um, so we've just been kind of, it was one of those things where it's like we wanted to put it out there as quick as we could, but also we had so many songs that it was just like, what if we throw this all on an EP and then put
Mhm.
it all out there? It is now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm so glad that you listened to or that you put the entire body out together, because as you listen through the entire EP, just like, as long as Spotify doesn't randomly start jumping from track to track, as Spotify's been known to do from time to time. But like when I'm able to sit down and listen to the full EP from 600 miles all the way down to Love's Gonna Win, it just tells this really cool story, and it makes my drive to work like just seamless.
Well, thank you. I
So
appreciate
it almost times out just perfect, like as far as length and how long it
it.
takes me to get to work. But every once in a while, I'll get to work, like a little bit early, and it's like just like right at the end of Pray for Peace, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna sit here. I know I'm running late, but I'm gonna finish this because it is almost a tradition at this point. So
Well,
yes.
thank you. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Yeah. So as you're kind of in the process of getting ready to release music and whatnot, what's your motivation right now? What's keeping you going as a person in the music business?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I feel like writing wise, at least, it's been a lot of life experiences, and things that I've gone through, or things that people have said where I've been through similar situations where I'm like, oh, like how would I resonate with this, or what would
Mm.
I, what would I do in their situation? That's been the main thing. at least writing wise. And then just being in the music industry, it's just like I can't see myself doing anything else. So this is it. I'm giving it my all, and I'm putting it all out there. And I think that the response has been just so overwhelmingly amazing. And I'm just so eternally grateful for that. And just getting to work with like the people that I've been surrounded by. I mean, I have a wonderful team, and everything that they do. My family has been so supportive of me. And so this has just been such a like a really enjoyable ride so far.
Nice. It's fun when you have a supportive group around you, and it's family and friends, and you know that they have your best interest at heart. Because like I'm not officially in the music business because I'm not a musician or any of that, but I've seen friends getting taken advantage of, and there's always those people that are looking to take advantage of music, just kind of take advantage of situations. So the fact that you've got your family and friends that are just kind of there to keep you focused, to kind of, keep your eye on the prize, but also keep you grounded and make sure you're not making any, rash decisions, stupid decisions, all that stuff. So just the fact that you've got a good core around you has to be very promising. So
it definitely is it's really heartwarming to know that they are supportive. And like to actually, because I know I'm very fortunate for the fact that not a lot of people may not have the same opportunities and like the same things around them. So I definitely really take that into consideration. Everything that they say, it's just like, I know they're always looking out for me, and that's the best feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So is it fair to say you don't regret giving up soccer?
No, but my dad, I think he about had a heart attack when I chose it, because he was my soccer coach for years. And so I was like, hey, Dad, like, I think I made a decision. He goes, okay, cool. And I was like, I'm choosing music. And he was like, awesome. Like, we'll go to practice. And he's like, wait, what did you say? No, I think music was a more promising route.
For sure. The next question is going to be, can you still play soccer, or do you still go play with your dad every once in a while, or?
We haven't really done that in a while, but my little sister, she plays flag football. And so we were at like her games, and I was like, I like missed being like on the field, like in a way. And like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know. And we were just talking about it. And I was thinking about possibly taking the soccer ball out and go down to the park, like down the street, and seeing if I could still hang out with everyone.
Right. It's one of those things where it's like you're so far into your music career now. It's like, okay, do I take that risk of something happening to me just because I want to see if I can still play soccer? So so kind of looking at yourself outside of music when you need to like decompress and whatnot, what do you do? What are some of your hobbies now that you're if you need to take a break and whatnot?
Oh, I usually, if it's just like a normal weekend, okay, let's just say I have a normal like night off, it's probably just hanging out with some friends. But if I have like a weekend, I'm probably like either if it's during summer, at the river. I love being on a boat, love being in the water. Like, it is my favorite thing ever.
Nice.
But during wintertime, I'm either like in the mountains snowboarding, or I'm in the desert riding my quad.
Nice. And that's one of the perks of living in Southern California, because 2 hours either way, it's like you could have whatever you want. So
it's so nice, because I feel like especially where I'm at, it's like I'm 35-40 minutes to the beach. I'm an hour from the mountains. I'm like 3 hours from the lake, and then like 3 hours from the desert. And I'm like, I could do it all.
Yeah.
This is the key about it.
I don't know why I wanted to avoid Southern California. Oh, it's the taxes. My bad. That's what
that yep, sounds about right.
Because so the day job that I have, we currently have a opening in San Luis Obispo, and people are just kind of like, hey, you should like consider trying to go there. And I'm like, I think I'm good.
Girl, it's nice for the thought until you're actually there, and then it's beautiful to look at. Just not beautiful for the pockets.
Right. Because I was sitting there, I was like, does the job pay $100,000 a year? Because I feel like that's what I'd have to make just because I know San Luis Obispo isn't LA, but it's still California, and it's still a desirable place to live from what I'm being told. So
yep. It doesn't feel like nowadays it doesn't even matter where you're at too much because it's just all very expensive.
Right. See, now if it was San Diego, that'd be a different story. I wouldn't mind living in San Diego. San Diego seems kind of like I went there as a kid and I remember just having the best time in San Diego.
San Diego, I have only been to San Diego a handful of times, but
Mm.
every single time I'm like taken aback by how cool the city is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's so many different parts of San Diego that you can be in. I mean, you can be towards like Del Mar, and then you can be down towards Carmel Valley and all these different things. And I'm like, I feel like I'm in so many different places at the same time, but then you're 10 minutes from the beach every way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll see.
The battles.
Right. So what's your show schedule looking like? Are you actively playing shows right now, or how often are you playing?
Yes, so I will be playing on October 13th over in Ukaipa for the Five Winds Festival with Parmalee, which I'm very excited for. And then on October 14th, I'll be playing for the Sheriff's Appreciation Day out in, I want to say it's Hemet. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. And then in November 11th, I'll be playing at Country Camp Out Weekend. And that's going to be a fun time with Chris Jansen, which I'm very excited for. And a few of my good friends are also going to be playing. So I'm very, very excited to see everyone. We finally all can play a show together. So I'm like, this is awesome.
Nice. I'm guessing that's in Southern California, because in November, you're not going camping anywhere else in the country.
It is Southern California and Chino at the Prado Regional Park.
Nice. Really cool. And then just because I enjoy this part of the podcast so much, we're going to play a fun little game here. It is called That's So Random. And I have a random question generator right here, and I'm going to ask you 5 random questions.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So, all right, here we go. Oh, we already asked that question. What do you do to relax? Wow. Okay. Very random. All right, here we go. We'll restart it. What are 2 things that always give you peace of mind?
2 things that always give me peace of mind. Driving. I know I already kind of answered that earlier.
Yeah, you're good.
Or I don't know, just like being with friends and family.
For sure.
Of people I know.
I got you. So, does pineapple belong on pizza?
I'm one of the people that's in the middle.
Okay.
I can only do pineapple on pizza if it's like you need the ham, but then you also have to load it up with jalapenos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm from Chicago, so pineapple on pizza is like a sin or something.
I mean, it kind of is. Well, when it's good, it's like, it's like nice. You get the salty, sweet, and the sweet and savory, and then the spicy. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you. In your opinion, what is a sign that someone is genuinely a good person?
This is a hard one. I would say how they talk about others around you. That is a big thing.
I 100% agree. Okay. You're given the choice of $1 million in cash, Bitcoin, or stock. Which one are you taking?
This is when I really wish I knew about Bitcoin and stocks. I'm going to go stocks because I've watched a little bit of Suits. Not a little bit. I watched a lot of Suits, and that seems like there's a good investment on it.
Fair. I agree, because stocks, especially when you're talking that kind of money and you put it in just like a standard stock, you don't try and get too crazy with the stock, you'll be okay in the long run. But if you're to try and do something stupid with the stock and go like, oh, that's the next company, and then 6 months later you have none of the money, that's where it gets a little crazy. So
yeah, I don't need to make a lot of money off of it. I just want a little bit. Like, I'll play it safe.
Sure. All right. And then final question. Would you rather play fishbowl with the cast of Whose Line Is It Anyway, or Drink with Jimmy Fallon?
Considering I don't know if I know the first whose line is it anyway, the cast of that, I'm
Mm,
gonna have to go with Talent.
okay, fair enough. Well,
Yep.
get honestly, I know like the original cast, but after that, I couldn't tell you, like, because they've changed it so much since like the original cast came out. So,
It could just be
but
any cast. You
right,
pick and choose. Cool.
right, probably, yeah. So, oh, but yeah, so that's so random.
I love
Good.
that. That was fun.
Yeah, it is one of those things I started. So I every year I do a fundraiser for pancreatic cancer research. And one year, or the first year I did it, I was trying to find something to like make each interview a little bit different. So I was like, okay, I got the random question generator. I'm gonna just randomly ask questions. And people liked it. So I was like, okay, let's start working this in. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Nice. Awesome. And then if anybody wants to check out your music or catch you at a show or any of that stuff, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me on all my social media, which is at Presley Tennant. So PresleyTennant, or you can go to my website, which is presleytennant.com, and everything from social media to tour to music, everything that you can think of is linked there.
Sick, sick. Really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with us. And before we wrap this up, what is one piece of advice you have for the young ones out there, the young musicians?
Oh, I would say don't be afraid to try things and keep pushing yourself even when you think that you've grown enough. You can always continue growing, and as soon as you stop doing that, that's when you limit yourself.
Sure, I 100% agree. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to support Live and Amplified and everything you do or we do, you can find us on all our social medias at Live, the letter N Amplified. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you later.